This is the Talkin Bout the Hoosiers podcast, presented by TheHoosier.com.
Hello, Hoosier fans. Welcome into the Hoosier.com postgame wrap-up. Almost said Talking About the Hoosiers, Kyler. Indiana coming off, I don't want to say a bad loss, but a tough loss to Louisville today. Yeah, I mean, you were there in person. You saw in Cambridge what was going on for Indiana today. Go down 16-0 to start the game. You're not going to win many games doing that. And Indiana was trying to dig themselves out of the hole. They could never do it.
No, I mean, it's not a bad loss. You lost the 9 points against the number 6 ranked team in the country, but it's just a bad performance overall. If that kind of makes sense a little bit, and you nailed it. That's the game right there. 16-0 right off the bat. Indiana's not built. Yeah, they showed they can come back against teams like they came back against Baylor and a couple other teams in Puerto Rico and stuff, but that's not Louisville. That's not a team like Louisville, and they just couldn't sustain that. There were times where they go on little mini runs, but Louisville probably had about, and I'm not exaggerating, it felt like 10-plus kill shots throughout the whole entire game. And Louisville is just built from top to bottom with depth, with guys that can shoot, guys that compete. They're honestly just got a bunch of dogs on their team. That's kind of how I look at it, and they buy into that culture that Pat Kelsey has, and Indiana just doesn't have the dogs to run with these guys. They don't have that, and their wheels fell off really quickly. I mean, the numbers aren't too different based off what you're seeing. I mean, they tied on the rebounding battle. Turnovers were 13. The main thing was obviously, Louisville shot 42% from three. Indiana shot 32% from three. And then Louisville was slightly better shooting overall, 46% to 41%. So I don't know other than player, the last thing I'll say is other than player like specific performances, Tucker DeVries, 26 points. Nick Dorn ended up hitting a bunch of threes towards the end of the game. 15 points. Lamar Wilkerson got 12. Like, other than that, I don't think this team they just didn't play well together tonight.
Yeah, I'll get into a positive in a sec, but the 32% from three, it's a little misleading. Like, they struggled to shoot the ball from three. Nick Dorn had a bunch late, and like a lot of those threes were down 15 in the final couple minutes, trying to rally their way back, and they did rally back into the game. But it's really hard, when you dig yourself that hole and the three ball really isn't falling. It's really difficult to battle back. Another guy, though, I do want to talk about a little bit. We talk about him so much. It feels like Connor Enright. I know it was 1 for 5 from the field. He ended up fouling out. But you look at his matchup. Who was he matched up with most of the game? Mikel Brown Jr. and probably held him Mikel Brown Jr. his worst game of the season. I mean, did a terrific job defensively getting into him, his body, just like put him in foul trouble and just made it tough on him all game.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things. I mean, you go down 16-0 against a team like Louisville, you're never going to win that game. Indiana fought, and that's if there is a silver lining, it's, we've seen teams of the past, they go down that kill shot early and they quit, and, the game turns to a 30-point loss rather than a 9-point loss. And, that is the silver lining if you want to find one, but at the same time, it's another one of those performances where in a big spot, Indiana had a bad performance.
Yeah, no, and I'm not going to question their effort at all. I mean, they did fight. They fought really hard a lot of times. They showed a lot more fight than what they showed versus Minnesota and everything. Connor Enright, you know what you're going to get out of him. Like, he's just a guy that's going to take on the toughest backcourt matchup, and he's going to try his hardest to make plays happen and let things happen. Indiana needed to get more from Tate Conaway today. Tate Conaway was very non-existent on the floor today. Reed Bailey is what he is. Like, right at this point in time, like, you know what you're going to give Reed Bailey, and honestly, it's probably not going to be a lot. It's not going to be enough for you to win these big types of games. Sam Alexis didn't really do a whole lot today. Like, I was a little bit disappointed in how his effort is, because if Indiana was going to win this game, other than going down 16-0 right off the bat, they needed Sam Alexis to provide that really steady front court presence, and they just didn't tonight. So, I mean, the positive, you can take away they fought. They continued to fight throughout until the final whistle. Cut it down to 7. When the game was pretty much over. Nick Dorn stepping up, and I'm really, really impressed with what I've seen from Nick Dorn. Like, the past few games, I feel like he's going to be a guy that's just going to have a much larger role as the season kind of continues on and stuff. But yeah, just right now, you just look at this roster. It's not a roster right now that's I don't even know what the word I'm looking for. I'm kind of lost for words a little bit. I guess it's a roster that it's going to struggle against teams like that. Let's just say like Louisville's a Final Four contending team. It's a roster right now that they're going to.
Yeah, you need a lot to go right. You need a lot to go right in a game like this. If with this current roster, the way it's assembled, we've talked about the rebounding issues. That's been an issue for Louisville as well. So it wasn't really a problem tonight. Or today, but when the three ball isn't falling, this team is in trouble, and we saw that today once again. Lamar Wilkerson 2 of 9 from 3, 5 for 15. Indiana needs him to be better. He needs to be hitting shots, and it's tough because he was hitting some tough shots, and then he was missing some of the easier ones he was getting. So it's finding that mix for him. And it's just he's a talented player, and he's a very good player, but when shots aren't falling for him, especially today, it can get rough, and it was tough game for him.
The scouts pretty easy on Lamar Wilkerson now, right? Obviously, they're going to look to try to get him shots and everything, and he's going to shoot 15 plus threes a game and stuff. So if you can limit that, you're pretty set. And then Tucker DeVries, I mean, it just feels like right now Tucker DeVries has to do a lot for this Indiana team for them to possibly be in a game. The problem is like they just don't. The way the roster was built is like you don't have guys that can take pressure off of guys like Tucker DeVries, take off Lamar Wilkerson. Tain Connerway has just been very up and down a little bit. Today was very, very down with him, and you're not hardly getting a lot out of the front court stuff. But I do think Indiana, obviously, just overall, just a tough week of basketball for Indiana. Just a gut punch, really, in a lot of ways. But you can kind of only go up from here. And I think Coach DeVries is smart enough to kind of realize, what the issues are right now. I think he's going to do his best to try to help correct as much as he can. But, the roster is what it is right now. In the future, do I think these will be issues for Indiana? No, because I think obviously you give him time to build an actual roster, the guys that he wants and guys that he can get into his system that can run the style that he wants to play. If you get guys like that and stuff, it's going to be long term. It's going to be successful. But right now, it's just it is what it is. And I know that's kind of a lame answer, but this Indiana team, and you mentioned it, I think this is perfect. You have to have a lot of things go right for Indiana right now to win these monster games against Louisville, against Purdue, against these Michigans and stuff like that. You have to have a lot to go right. It starts with the three-point shot. They got to hit a lot of them. They got to hit most of them. They got to compete on defense and play hard at the end of the day. It's just putting consistent performances together for Indiana. It's just something they haven't been able to do yet.
Yeah, and I mean, it's playing a full 40 minutes as part of that. And I think you look at ahead kind of to next week. Indiana goes back home, which it feels like needed so much going home against Penn State. It's a must-win game for Indiana. You cannot lose that game after losing to Minnesota, and then you go on the road at Kentucky at Rupp, where that's going to be one of the toughest environments they play in all year. Probably it's that and Mackey are probably the two toughest environments that team will play in.
Yeah,
and that's a Kentucky team that's kind of struggling right now too. So it's like Indiana could potentially make some noise there, but at the same time, you got to play a full 40 minutes. You can't come out of the gate, go down 16-0 and expect to compete against a team that, Louisville is looking to, win the ACC. They're looking to make a deep run in the tournament. And it's, there's levels to it. And, it's year one for Darren DeVries. And it's, Indiana, I don't think anyone really thought Indiana was going to be a national title contender in year one. And we're seeing it. It's still, the work in progress. It's a building, this is a building block team. It's not a team that's, Indiana getting to the tournament, we said at the beginning of the year that was the goal for this team, and it still is. That 7-0 start with the wins over Kansas State and Marquette looked great at the time, but then you're looking Marquette, Kansas State really aren't that great of teams. So it's the goal remains the same. Indiana's got to take care of business in the games they're supposed to win, and maybe knock off a team like a top team in the Big Ten or Kentucky. When the three ball is falling, because when the three ball isn't falling, I don't know if they're able to do that.
Last thing I'll kind of say is just kind of some of what you just said. It's like patience, right? And I know that's really frustrating. That's a terrible word to say to Indiana fans, but you got to have it with this new thing. And I know I've said that a ton, going back to the Mike Woodson teams and stuff, patience, right? But you just have to with this team, and you have to with Coach DeVries especially. Let him kind of build this out. Like I said, he's a smart coach. He's a coach that knows what issues that they have, and he will get them corrected. He'll get some short-term corrections, this season, but he'll also get some long-term corrections moving forward when it comes to the recruiting, transfer portal, getting guys that can run his system and guys that can kind of balance out his system as well. And you don't rely heavily on a Lamar Wilkerson or Tucker DeVries, to have strong nights because, who knows in that situation what can happen. But rough performance from Indiana. They fought. Not really many more takeaways that you can take away on my end.
No, nothing really else to add for me. We're going to wrap it up here. But, Tyler, before we do, prediction for tonight. Because I know this is the basketball talk, just football. Let's just do a quick score prediction for you.
Indiana 100, Ohio State 0. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, on the staff picks on the Hoosier, I think we both had 27-24 Indiana. But yeah, so guys, you're watching this. You're probably watching the Indiana football game tonight. So make sure you guys are checking out the Hoosier for full coverage from that. We're gonna have boots on the ground there. So make sure to follow the Hoosier on 3 on Twitter. Check out the Hoosier.com website and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Hoosier.com postgame wrap up. We'll be back.